Hi everyone, in this video we're looking at our trends, patterns and relationships. We'll look at uncertainties and limitations in another video, but we're going to be looking at how we interpret and analyze that evidence that we've presented in our tables and graph, because data doesn't have any meaning until we interpret it, and that's what we're looking at when we do construct this thing. So what we have here is trend, pattern, relationship. I'm just going to go, here we go. Trend is a general direction in which something is changing. A pattern is the repeated occurrence or sequence, and a relationship is the connection and association between the ideas. Now that's what we are looking at, and you should always refer to your data when presenting these things. So if you go, the trend is this, it should have, for example. The pattern is this, for example, and use where you found that pattern or what evidence you used to support your claim. Okay, so let's get in there. So trends is the general tendency of the series, so it goes in a certain direction. So you should have probably one of two relationships: a positive one, which is like as one increases, so you can see like an upward slope, or a negative trend, so downward slope. So you have some sort of line, like these are your axes here. Sorry, I'm doing this like this. These are your axes. You would have a line that goes like that. Whereas if it was positive, it'd be like that. Okay, so that's downward slope, negative, upward slope, positive. A pattern is something that's repeated, and then a relationship is where we talk about in two variables, and that is the thing that we really want you to do, because that's like the run that we're trying to work out. Like, does the number of breaths affect the distance traveled by the balloon? We want to know if there is a relationship between those two variables. So let's have a look here. So what we're looking for is this tier of the analysis of evidence. So remember, this is your chart sheet, and we're looking at the ice of your that. So we're looking at what's the difference between these three tiers. Aim for always here. If you land, aim for the stars, land in the clouds. No one should be aiming for this, because this is if you have been ineffective, which means that you're not doing it correctly and you've tried but you haven't hit the mark. So hopefully this video helps you get here or here. So what we're looking for is that in each one of these, does it have a pen? It certainly does. Woohoo. Highlighter. Let's use a highlighter, and we're going to use blue. So each time we're highlighting, it's experimental evidence, or analysis of experimental evidence, still analysis of experimental evidence. Yep. The breaking point is these words in bold. Oh, and we're looking at for trends, patterns and relationships. Trends, patterns and relationships. There we go. They're the things that we're looking for, but the difference is this stuff here. Systematic, effective. Oh, that's not the greatest. I'm just going to try and underline underneath. There we go. They're the differences between each one of those. So systematic means that it's done logically and everything is like done thoroughly. In stepwise. So if we're unsure, let's refer to Tashi. Systematic. Done or acting in according to a fixed plan system, methodical, organized, logical. So setting it up in a logical way. Effective. Doing so in a effective, intended, desired, expected result, meeting the assigned purpose. So if you're going to analyze something, we want it to be done effectively, because it's the intended purpose of what we're trying to do. If it's systematic, it's done with logic and consideration. If it's effective without the logic and consideration, ineffective, not done well. Okay, this thing here, thorough identification of relevant. So we say, I have identified this. For example, here's my evidence. It's because of this. So that's what we're looking for. Okay, that is, yep, looking at all the detail that's involved. So here we go. This is someone's data for maximum temperatures. I'm going to go back to our ramp angle experiment. Sorry, just give me a moment. So here I have both the ramp information, which is down below. I have also the raw data, that side, and I have the average data there. And then I also have the graph. so that it helps me identify the trends and the relationships. And then this one here is to help me find the patterns. Now, if I'm looking here, I don't really see a pattern forming. Like, there isn't any repeating values with those numbers. So I'm going to leave patterns. Remember, when we're doing this, we want to find trends, patterns, or relationships. So that's what we're looking for, is like you kind of identify one of those or two of those. So thorough would be more than one. If identification would be of an obvious trend, pattern, or relationship. So something really basic there. Okay. So when we have a look here, I can't really see a pattern, but I can see a trend. It's a positive slope. The values are going up. So it doesn't matter, in the average here, it means that there is an upward slope in my data. So the trend is an upward positive slope. Positive slope. So, have I got enough yet? Identified obvious trends, patterns, relationships. So it's obvious a TP or an R that I've identified. All right. And discussed in detail. So I haven't done that yet. So let's have a look back here. There we go. That's for patterns. So this is where someone's saying for pattern. So you might have something for pattern. Okay. I'll leave that there for you. And then trend. So we have a positive lemon trend as the data shows an upward slope as the number of reflectors increases. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do there. So I'm going to change what I wrote to as the number of, as the ramp of the angle, the angle of the ramp increases. So there we go. Figure 1 shows, so I've written it so it sounds a bit more appropriate. So I've identified them correctly as opposed to being an obvious one. Have I gone into more detail? I don't think so. So here's my paragraph. I haven't got the pattern there, but I'm going to refer to the direction of the slope to support my evidence there. So we would say, going back to here, shows as for the angle of the ramp increases. For example, what would help? The value of the average value of the low angle was 124 centimeters, and it increased by, do some quick math, to 239 for the medium slope. This shows an upward trend. So now my research question, the trend is being identified in detail. Okay, so I've kind of linked back to the graph using also the raw data, and the average data, and for the medium ramp angle. Change that so it sounds a bit better. So your job is to do something like that as well for trend, pattern, or relationship. Okay, and then the relationship between the variables. Now that's the big one because it answers your research question. Because when you think about it, that is what your research question is. Does something changing affect something else? And that's what we're looking for. So in this case, hopefully, no, she doesn't want to go there. I'll make that a bit bigger. So instead of you watching me fumble through making a paragraph, here we go. So I've got a topic sentence, evidence, and then elaborate. Now I've kind of left that blank because that's where you've got to demonstrate your skills. I can't walk you through getting the highest standard. I can guide you. So here we go. I've got the relationship identified, shows that, so there's my angle of the ramp increases. So that's my, what color did we use for independent variable? I think it was yellow last time, and the average distance increases. So average distance, that's our dependent variable, increases. That's what we're looking for. That is does the variable affect distance traveled? That's what your research question is. We want you to answer this part because it does relate back to your research question. I can't stress that enough, because we want you to thorough identification of relevant patterns and relationships. So, trends, patterns, and relationships. That's what I'm trying to get you to do here. So by answering it that way, for example, so now I've used evidence for my data, or from my data, and then this is the last bit. This is because. Now let's link that back to concepts that you know about things. So as we increase the angle of the ramp, we're actually increasing the effect of gravity on the car. Gravity is a force. We are increasing the amount of force that's exerted on the car, or increase the amount of force, we increase the distance it can travel. So linking that back to those scientific concepts and ideas to ensure that you are using the evidence collected to answer your research question. That's what we're looking for, that association between concepts and ideas. So I've left that blank because I want you to think about that now. Yes, I've mentioned in the video, so it's up to you to kind of go back and have a think about how your changes, so the independent variable that you change links back to your concept of friction, forces, and such. Now, if you wrote your research and planning, you should go back to that section and help you answer this is because. Okay, and that's going to help you aim for here. Now, even if you identify obvious trends, patterns, and relationships, if you're aiming for this and you miss a couple of those things, or you can't, you don't feel like you've got that right, just write it down. Because if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you're still in this ballpark here, and that's the difference between 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Okay, so good luck with that. Don't forget to pause, stop, rewind, rewatch, and good luck with writing your trends, patterns, and relationships. Sorry, it's a bit long. Thanks, guys. Bye.